talk a little bit about empathy today. It's something that I think we can have too much of. And I've just, in the last few days, been really just confronted with my own life in many ways. The way I've approached others, and often we can become too intense with things like empathy, too intense with caring. And we overcare, and people can see it as controlling or bossy or whatever. And maybe on our side, it's coming from a heart of genuine care. But on their side, when they're not asking for it, it comes from, it's perceived as being just too much. And I was sort of thinking about some of that recently, and I just had some things that happened in and around my life that have set me to thinking. And when you've been in a situation that is too, it's been really abusive, and I can only speak from experience. I'm not looking for any sympathy. I'm just talking generally here. When you have a heart that you're empathetic, mate, let's talk about a relationship. You've been in a relationship, you're giving your best. The other person at the other end is just a stone wall. It's like almost talking to a stone wall. Let's just put it that way. And you've cried out to try to be felt, and that person's just like, nah. And it's complete shutdown for whatever reason. I think the trauma response from that often becomes too much empathy. So when you've moved on, that's all finished, and you've come on to the next thing in your life, you have this need, this inner need to be loved, an inner need to be heard. And I remember during the time of where my relationship broke down, my marriage of 28 years, when I was trying to be heard, what's going on? What? And you want to be, your voice to be heard, your voice to be understood, even just to be listened to, even if it wasn't paid any attention to. And I during that time, I remember thinking everybody should have the right to speak. There's nothing worse than when you get shut down. They won't even let you speak. And what the trauma response to that can be is an overdoing of empathy, an overdoing of care, because you don't want to be there again, maybe, or you don't want to, that person matters to you and starts to matter too much to you. So you're trying to keep that there. It's a control, really, isn't it? And what I started to think about was how many times we overcare in an empathetic response because you don't want to be in that place again. And you've been hurt by a lack of empathy, and you make up for that by giving too much empathy. And that person that maybe is they're challenged in different areas. I mean, I know I've been around people, their challenge has been people have always given them everything. I think a lot of women like that. They've especially very attractive women, everything's always been given to them. They've never really had to work for it. They might think they're working for it, but until you've been someone that really's had to work for it, you've had to have empathy, you've had to feel others, you've had to be able to respond to others to be able to get somewhere in life. But often when somebody's, not had to do that, everything's just been handed to them, you can do something for someone like that, and that could be completely innocent, and they'll perceive that in the wrong way because their love's always been bought. And often someone like that, their heart is not giving a lot of empathy, not really responding the way it could respond because they've never really had to do that. Not that they don't have empathy. They think they do, and they do, but it's different. So my point today is to just say that I think our journey on life, if you've been through trauma and you've been through major trauma, have a look at your life, and maybe you're too empathetic. And when you become too empathetic, you can push away those that you really care about because they see it as intense, because they've not been traumatized in those areas. They can't understand your trauma. And in the last few days, it's been fairly confronting to me. No specific person, but just God bringing things up in me and showing me a cycle of how my responses have been born from trauma. And now, as that healing begins, I'm able to let go. I'm able to more say, you know what, I can be a lot calmer. Because I think I was talking to one of my mates, one of the guys here that is maybe over empathetic as well, and always gets abused in it. And we were talking about it, and we're saying, it's really, you're healed the second you see it. And then it's like all the muck just being cleaned out. And to have seen that, and I pray today that if you're like that, you will see it. That maybe, because we love the way we want to be loved. We're crying to be felt. So it's like, would somebody just feel me? Feel my heart, that I am not a beast. I'm not doing wrong. I care about you. And we try to over push that sometimes because we've been in a situation where it was ignored. And that's not, it'll bring us to somebody with the same trauma. And now everybody comes with that trauma, and trauma becomes the bond instead of unconditional and beautiful love. So I'm pretty encouraged that, and I'm being fairly honest here, that, I've over-empathized, over-felt, over-advised, helped give people advice when they're not asking for it, because you really care and you just want to give, and instead of letting them just be. And I know I've had people around my life that spoke from their heart. I remember a lady one time, she's speaking from her heart. It was so beautiful. She spoke from her heart. And then you start to not want to lose that. So because of that, you then want to give. And so you start giving of yourself advice and whatever else, instead of listening to the beautiful heart unwrapping in front of you. You're still doing it. But now when I look back, I can see that I probably bulldozed a little bit, and you can be embarrassed about it, but there's nothing you can do. You just hope that person is able to see who you are, see that you're on a journey the same as they are. And I get condemned and think, oh no, I've upset somebody, or I've could have done that better. But ultimately, that's life, and it is the invitation that if somebody really cares for you, somebody really has respect for you, you can act like an idiot, and they can still look at you and go, yeah, he's what he is, but you know what? He's worth it. I've had people do it to me, pushed away, done things that have been whatever, and you still look at them and go, you know what? That could have been done better. That hurt. But that's not them. They don't mean it that way. They're not meaning to be mean. They've just never been in that position before. And you just love them. Even if they're gone, you just look at them and go, I hope one day you come back, because you're awesome. You're awesome. So, excuse me. So I just wanted to encourage you today. Take a look at your life. I think that's why it's great to have God in your life, because it's almost like he gives you an impartial perspective sometimes when you're ready to hear. The last 3 days, maybe people have tried to tell me, but the last 3 days, it was God speaking to my heart, and just a lot of emotion in that, when you start to see who you are and you start to see the pain that you've responded to, and God just saying, I want to heal that so you can have a normal functioning relationship. So when somebody does come into your life, you're not going to be that intense one that's trying to hold on to them because you don't want to lose them. But there'll be the calmness of just saying, my heart is with your heart, and together we resonate. And I don't need to push or try or whatever. It's just stay calm. I'm loving it. I'm loving God changing things. I'm loving the romance videos and things that I'm putting in there, because God's romancing me. And I'm not the greatest at words, but I can hear, I hope you hear my heart, and my heart for you to know that what God's got for each of us matters so much. Religion is a death, but the romance of God is beautiful. God bless you. Hey, I love you guys. Thanks.